Hey everybody, Sneaky Narcotic, back at it again with another YouTube video. Today we're going to go over a little bit of the War of the Spark lore, kind of tell the baseline of the story. I don't think I can fit all of it into this one video, but we're going to try. So let's get into it, guys. But first, let me ask y'all to like, share, and subscribe. It would mean a lot to me, and I would greatly appreciate it. So let's get into it. War of the Spark. So, the first thing to notice in War of the Spark is that Tezzeret is the master of the bridge. He has the planar bridge incorporated into his body and can call upon the power of the planar bridge to open up a bigger planar bridge. So, he uses this power from Amonkhet to start the Dreadhorde invasion. As you can read from Emergence Zone, the planar bridge opened over the chamber of the guild pack, reducing the symbol of Ravnica's endurance to rubble. So, the Dreadhorde invasion starts after that. The Dreadhorde, of course, being the Eternals from Amonkhet that were zombies mummified in Lazotep to make them harder to kill than they already are as zombies. So, the things that the good guys have going for them is that they have this beacon. They ignited the beacon once the invasion started, because they already kind of had to tip off that the invasion was about to happen. So, they ignited the beacon, calling all planeswalkers to Ravnica, basically attracting them, not even just calling them, but kind of attracting them to Ravnica. And you'll see that. You'll see why I say that instead of actually calling upon help here in a second. So, the bad guys actually have two things going for them. So, the first is Liliana Dreadhorde General. From her contract that defaulted to Nicol Bolas, she is under full command of Nicol Bolas. She commands the Dreadhorde as a powerful necromancer with the chain veil. If you look in her left hand anatomically right in the picture, you'll see the chain veil is actually there. Well, here, right there. So she has this enormous power, but as a relatively in between the lines person and more pushing towards good recently, she actually is trying to do the most minimal amount of damage that she can while still fulfilling the contract so she doesn't endanger her own life. Now, again, I've said this before in previous videos. Other planeswalkers and people from Ravnica do not understand why she is on Nicol Bolas' side. They don't know about the contract. They don't know about any of this. And so they they will look at her hostile as for a long time. And that'll come up towards the end of the video. But anyways, the other thing they have going for them is that Dovin Bond has set up the Immortal Sun in Nuprov and turned it on. So, Nuprov being the home base for the Azorius Guild, and the Immortal Sun being the device that traps planeswalkers on a plane. They can planeswalk to Ravnica, but they are trapped there. So, these are all the planeswalkers, save I think 2, that are on Ravnica right now, either called by the interplanar bridge or interplanar beacon, or already at Ravnica. And as you can see, there are a lot of familiar faces, some new faces. This set has what, 30? I think actually 39 different planeswalkers once you count the promo Tezzeret Master of the Bridge and the 2 Planeswalker decks. But there's a lot of Planeswalkers. Now, something else I'd like to mention, if you look deeper into the pictures, you'll see that these are not the Planeswalkers from the actual set, or at least not the art. This is actually the Japanese art that they're releasing. They're going to have them, as far as I've read, they're going to have them sporadically, like very, very rarely, in actual booster packs. But they're going to be mostly in Japan, because this is a Japanese art release, and what I find really cool is it's like an it's an anime version of the Planeswalkers, and those are really cool. I like them. Look at the little Nahiri with her sword. Anyways, let's keep going. So, the bad guys, right? Everybody that's on Nicol side is, of course, Nicol, Liliana, Domri, and Dovin Bond. Now, Nicol plan is to harvest the sparks of all the planeswalkers on Ravnica using the Elder Spell to cause him to basically ascend to goddom, or godhood, I should say, as a planeswalker. And the thing that people have to understand, if you don't know the actual lore of Magic the Gathering, is basically there's a multiverse. That's the different planes all together, but they're held together by a central plane called Dominaria. There was this very convoluted event that started causing all the planes to fray and to have issues. There was this big multiverse crisis, and all the old planeswalkers sacrificed themselves to mend Dominaria. And with the Great Mending, all the old planeswalkers decided that since planeswalkers having godhood already caused this to happen, with them making new planes and doing stuff they really weren't supposed to be doing, that they were going to dumb down the power of being a planeswalker. So instead of being gods like they used to be and like Nicol wants to be, they're more like superhumans than gods now. But anyways, so to start the Elder Spell, which is what he's using to harvest them, he had to kill one of his people. He had to kill Domri. Now, Domri, God bless him, he's basically this 18-year-old that he wanted to be there for his guild. So his guild is Gruul, and Gruul was promised like the forest of Ravnica. Excuse me. And so, with Ravnica being a growing city, the forest gets smaller and smaller. And so the lore of Ravnica, of Gruul, is that there will be this great event called the End Raise. And Domri wanted to bring it about, which would cause the city to crumble and basically go back to being the forest, which would give Gruul the domain over the city. And so it kind of happens. It kind of happens, but not really. There's a card there that says Return to Nature, and that's what I'm basing that off of. Yeah, there are certain points of Ravnica that return to nature after the crumble, after the war, but it's not really the End Raise, I would call it. But anyways, he did have two other planeswalkers on his side. He had Kaya. He had three others, but let's mention these two first. Kaya and Raul, but they defected pretty dang quick. And of course, the other one being Vraska. And so, he being the most, how do I put it? The most vengeful planeswalker there is right now, he wasn't too happy to see them defect like that. There is two other wild card planeswalkers that I feel like I should mention their side stories. So Nahiri and Sorin. Nahiri and Sorin have this very antagonist type of thing going with them. Basically, Sorin screwed over Nahiri, who screwed over Sorin, and it's just going at it. The biggest blood feud since Nicol Bolas and Ugin, honestly. Or I guess I should say the Elder Dragon War. But anyways, so they see each other, they were fighting the Dread Horde, and all of a sudden they go into single combat, where it's just them decking it out against each other. And if you read the card, it even says this: not even a threat to the entire multiverse could persuade them to put aside their feud. Now, it is said later on that, I forget who reported it, but somebody said to the guilds that they did see Sorin and Nahiri eventually fighting, not against each other, but helping each other fight against the Dread Horde. And I think that's kind of cool, that they could put aside their differences for, I'm sure, all of 2 minutes. It is said that they do eventually planeswalk away, and it's not known what they're doing now, but it is assuredly, it's speculated, I guess, that they're probably continuing their feud on a different plane. Probably Innistrad or Zendikar, to be honest. But anyways, going to the next slide. So the planeswalkers that were in Ravnica had this big meeting, where they decided what they need to do to foil Nicol Bolas's plans. And so they split it up into 4 different groups, and these are the 4 different groups. So the first group consisted of Jace, Jaya, Vivian, and Teferi. Now, their mission was to kill Liliana. And this was very conflicting to Jace. Like I said before, the Planeswalkers did not really know why Liliana was fighting on Nicol Bolas's side. I don't even think Jace did. I think Gideon's the only one that actually saw the contract default to Nicol Bolas. But Jace was very conflicted because he's been her friend for a long, long time. But Vivian started shooting spirit arrows. Jaya started blasting fire, and Teferi put up his time slowing bubble around Liliana so she couldn't react to it. And Jace eventually joined in on the attack as well, even after being so withdrawn. They almost killed her. But according to the MTG Wiki, Nicol Bolas comes in at the last minute and saves her. He knocks down the towers that they were on and sweeps her away, so that she can still command his Dreadhorde. It would have been a sweet victory. I mean, bittersweet victory if Liliana would have just died there, but it would have been a sweet victory, or a victory nonetheless. So the next group of people is Doc Faden, Karn, Obnixilis, and Samit. Their biggest mission was to go through the planar bridge, which up until now, people did not realize that the planar bridge could have animate objects go through it. They thought that if you were to go through it being a living, breathing human or whatever, that you would die. So they found out that that's not true, and they go through the planar bridge to Amonkhet, where Tezzeret is controlling it from the other side. Now, I would like to mention just a little bit of a side note. Obnixilis is not a good guy. He notice there's no guild member or guild pact member, Gate Watch members on this team. That's for a good reason, because he probably would have said, nope. No. We won't be helping you. But he reluctantly helps, even though it's technically working with the good guys, it's more for self-preservation. Whilst Nixilis and Samit fought off the Eternals, Doc distracted Tezzeret, giving Karn an opening to fly one of Healy's explosive microdrones into the bridge controlling mechanism in Tezzeret's chest. The portal collapsed, and the wounded Tezzeret revealed that he was glad they defeated him. He hopes they succeed at killing Bolas so he can finally be freed from his servitude to the dragon. With that, Tezzeret planes walked away. So, kaboosh. He blew up. The planar bridge blew up because the main mechanism to control it was blown up. So the Eternals stopped coming through. After this, of course, Tezzeret, who is the last of the the false gods, last of the false gods still living, she gives, I believe, Doc Faden, who later gives it to Karn, who gives it to someone else later, and I'll mention that, the spear that Tezzeret had for killing people at the end of Tezzeret's trial. And the spear, of course, was made from Nicol Bolas's essence, which comes into factor later. But basically, that's what this group was to do. Of course, after doing this, the 2 planeswalkers that for sure came back to Ravnica were Doc Faden and Karn. Now, Dark Faden, upon returning to Ravnica, dies. If you've watched the trailer for War of the Spark, he died. He died super hard that he doesn't even have a Planeswalker card in the set. Yes, guys, Dark Faden was here, and he doesn't even get a card in the set. Isn't that sad? I don't know why Wizards decided to do that. I really would have enjoyed a Dark Faden card, to be honest. But anyways, not the point. The next group of people was to go shut off the planar bridge. Now, the people on this team are Chandra, Nissa, Lazav, and Lavinia. And, of course, they have to go to New Prov, where Dove and Bon is, and shut off the planar bridge. Now, to do this, Lazav distracted, Lazav, being the master disguiser that he is, he actually dressed up like Chandra, and he fought using, what are they called? Flamethrowers. Sorry, I don't know why I can't think of that word right now. Flamethrowers. And so, this tricked Dove and Bon long enough that they could shut off the planar bridge, and of course, being the ninja that he is, he threw ninja stars right into Dove and Bon's eyes. And this isn't said if it permanently blinded him or not, but it did damage him enough that he cried and planes walked away. Now, the thing about that is that, and I was trying to see if I could find it again. They eventually go back and turn on the planar bridge. A lot of not any of the planeswalkers, or at least not said just yet in MTG Wiki. None of the planeswalkers that are known planeswalked away after the first Immortal Sun shutdown. But there was, according to the lore, there were planeswalkers that did. As soon as they could, they were like, oh, out of here. They didn't give a crap about Ravnica. So, anyways, they eventually turned it back on to trap Nicol Bolas there. Nicol Bolas didn't realize that he also could be trapped there, especially after they turn off the planar bridge. So, before turning off the planar bridge, before turning off the Immortal Sun and then turning it back on to use against him, they actually had this issue where the false gods who had died after fighting off the Forgotten Gods, they enter the plane. So, for those that don't know, there are 5 colors of Magic the Gathering, and there are 5 false gods. Bantu, which is black, Ronus, which is green, Oketra, which is white, and Kefnet, which is blue, and of course Hezeret, which is red, and the only one still alive. All of the others got eternalized. So here's eternalized Ronus, eternalized Kefnet, eternalized Bantu, and eternalized Oketra. So, there's the living Hezeret, by the way. They enter and are, of course, really powerful, so they start fighting, and being the big threat they are, they need to be taken down. So the next group of people decided that they were going to go take on Ronus, who was leading a huge horde of Eternals. So it was Gideon, Aurelia, excuse me, I almost called him Rakdos. No, that is Angrath, and Huatli. All went and fought Ronus, and they finally defeated him using the Dark Blade Reforged, and his horde. I need to mention that the Angels started going at it. They started flying down from their big, I guess you would call it a ship. I wish I would have saved a picture of it. It's called the Perhelion 2. It's the Perhelion 2. It's the second one. And so the Angels started flying down with their swords made out of literally light and dawn, as they called it, and just annihilating these Eternals, of course, the Eternals fought back too, and actually had flying zombies. Wow, I couldn't think of that one fast enough. Flying zombies. So, anyways, that's just a side note to make sure I mention it. For Hellion 2. So, here comes Niv Mizzet. Niv Mizzet actually died before War of the Spark even started. Nicol Bolas came to the plane and killed him. So, Nicol Bolas killed him, but Niv Mizzet is a smart dragon. He's probably the smartest non-planeswalker legendary creature there is. He had this thing called a continuous plan, and I'll show you the picture of that here in a minute. But basically, he had every idea of how to beat Nicol Bolas. It's kind of like an endgame where, and I'm not spoiling endgame for you if you haven't watched it. I haven't watched it myself. I'm more talking about Infinity War. Yeah, so if you've watched Infinity War, you should know what I'm talking about. When Doctor Strange goes and sees every inevitability of what is going to win, Niv Mizzet did the same thing, except for he instead of seeing the future, had plans for every single instance that could happen, including his death. So what he did was he had Ugin help him make a Firemind's vessel, which kept his spirit. Sarkhan actually delivered it to Ugin, and the meditation plane, which is where Ugin is. He actually isn't even on Ravnica, go figure. And he left clues behind to how to rebuild him as the new living guild pack. And that's exactly what happened. He comes back, he is reborn, Niv Mizzet reborn. Warburg, by the way, he is a 5-color dragon, Niv Mizzet reborn. They almost got foiled by Kefnet, the Eternalized Kefnet, but upon rebirth, I should say, he just annihilated Kefnet. He shot a huge fireball and melted Kefnet down. Okay, so Kefnet's dead, Ronus is dead. There's only one thing left to do, and that's, of course, ask a Pegasus to let you fly on his back, get shot down by Oketra, only to get picked up by Rakdos, who said, I will never let anybody else ride me again like a Pegasus or a horse, to do a very big defiant strike with a Black Blade Reforged, which was known to kill dragons, by the way, to which Nicol Bolas said, haha, I enchanted the Black Blade Reforged a long time ago to not be able to hurt another dragon. Oh my god, guys. Oh my god. Tyrant Scorn here. This being, after he takes the lunge off of Rakdos and of course fails to kill Nicol Bolas, he has to, if you've seen the little trailer video, he gets pummeled by Eternals. And I actually asked myself when I watched that video, before any of the cards were spoiled, why is he sitting next to the Citadel by himself? And the reason is because, as you can see in this picture, after taking that mighty leap from Rakdos' head, he gets knocked down to the bottom of the Citadel where all these Eternals are, and they start fighting him. Of course, and this will come up again here in a minute, but he is I believe they pronounce it, Hieromancer. He, from what I understand of Hieromancy, it's a faith-based magic that, basically he buffs and debuffs. That's basically the magic, is you're either buffing yourself or debuffing your opponents based off your faith. And so he has an invulnerability, and that's his Hieromancy. So anyways, that's why he's not getting cut up by the Eternals here. Liliana, and again, if y'all haven't seen the trailer, I almost wanted to include it in here, but I didn't know if it was copyrighted or something like that. Liliana in the trailer, you'll see there are two kids that are running around this war-torn Ravnica, and it's an older sister and a younger boy, and they have to be less than 10 years old. They're running from an Eternal, and all of a sudden, this pile of rubble just falls on them, and so the little girl at the last minute tries to protect her younger brother and fails, and they both get pummeled, and it's this very heartbreaking moment for Liliana. She remembers a time back when she tried to save Jasu and her younger brother, and failed, and now he was a lich, and just a bunch of emotions come back at her, and she finally switches. She says, "Screw this. I'm not for this. This is not me. This isn't how I want to be remembered. This isn't how it's supposed to be." And she starts to turn the Dread Horde against him. And since the Eternals are the Dread Horde, let me flip over to my notes for this. So to get it correctly here, the Eternals start to turn on Nicol Bolas too. Now, the Eternals themselves are the ones that actually have the Elder Spells. If you look, they have the Elder Spell. Well, I think that's the Necromancy. Supposedly, according to Davriel, the reason why he can fight the Dread Horde is because he can steal the Elder Spell from their head. And so that's how they were doing it, is they would harvest the spark, and then they would die themselves, and the spark would be sent into the Citadel. So anyways, all that to say that the God Eternals could actually rip out Nicol Bolas' spark, and that actually happened. So Niv Mizzet comes, he actually has Hazoret's spear now, and he comes and stabs Nicol Bolas in the back to distract him. And this hurts because it is, of course, made out of Nicol Bolas' essence. So it can hurt him, unlike the Dark Blade. Oketra tries to attack first, and she is completely obliterated by the power of the God Pharaoh. That was in Amonkhet. He is now the Dragon God. But this gives Bantu enough of a distraction to bite Bolas, harvesting all of the sparks that he has, including his own spark. And then, of course, upon absorbing all of the sparks, Bantu ruptures. So Hazoret is the only forgotten god left, even eternalized. And this is, of course, mentioning that Niv Mizzet was there to put that Hazoret spear in Nicol Bolas' back. So, what Liliana did not know about, well, I mean, she knew, but she was willing to pay the price of betraying Nicol Bolas. As soon as he started seeing that the Dread Horde was coming against him, he started to, in the video, he screamed really loudly, and she screamed really loudly back, but basically what he was doing was invoking the contract, and she started to dissipate. The moment Liliana defied Nicol Bolas, her contract was broken, and her life was forfeit, but she was free to choose her fate, and she decided it was worth the price. Little did she know, Gideon would take that price. To Liliana's surprise, the cost of betraying Bolas did not fall on her. So, Gideon gave up, like I said, he can buff and debuff, so he gave his invulnerability away to Liliana so that he would take the toll of her contract and die himself. This is a very heartbreaking moment. I wish they would have continued the trailer and we could have seen this actually happen. But basically, to give you a little bit of a background, out of the Gatewatch, and this is me speculating just a tiny bit, Gideon has been there more for Liliana than anybody else. So Gideon, I would honestly say Gideon either has a brother-sister relationship with Liliana or an actual love relationship, and so he gives up his own life here. Now, granted, me personally, on a player level, I do not like Gideon as a white planeswalker. But it's so heavy to see Gideon go. He's been here for a long time. I mean, again, if you go back to Magic Origins, Zendikar, I mean, any of the last, like, 20, I would almost say, expansions. I honestly haven't been playing Magic long enough to remember the beginning of the Guild Pack. Or not the Guild Pack, I keep saying that. The Gatewatch. And so, it's heartfelt when he dies. And of course, this will break a lot of people. This emotion is felt throughout the Planeswalkers. Now, let me make sure I got my notes here. Upon Gideon's death, upon the desparking of Nicol Bolas, Jace is there. And Jace gets a telepathic message from Ugin saying, do not kill Gideon. Make it to where you put a hologram, basically, of Nicol Bolas dying. Do not kill Gideon. Did I just say that? Make it to where there is a hologram of Nicol Bolas dying. And do not kill him, because he reminded him of 2 instances where Elder Dragons have been brought back to life. Let me make sure I say this name correctly. Tetsuo Umezawa, Tetsuo Umezawa, Tetsuo, something like that. Supposedly some way that I wasn't playing back in this set, so I'm going to take a stab based off of the little knowledge I have of it. Basically, Nicol Bolas thwarted his own death. Okay, he played God. He played God. And then of course Ugin reminded Jace of himself, who is in fact a spirit god. I mean, not a spirit god, a spirit dragon. You know, so and of course, Ugin is the twin to Nicol Bolas, so I assume that they have similar powers. Anyways, he instead asks him to allow him to come in, planeswalk really fastly. May I remind you, really fastly. Ugin is on the plane for 5 seconds. He swoops in, grabs the defeated Nicol Bolas, and planeswalks to the meditation realm that he controls. Now, again, Nicol Bolas is desparked now. He's lost all his power. He's almost not even an Elder Dragon anymore. He's so weak. It actually, I believe it says it was weeks before he gained his consciousness back after traveling through the Blind Eternities, which is what they have to travel through to be a planeswalker, Anyways, the Blind Eternities are the in-between of the planes. So, he planeswalks to the meditation realm. God, I don't know why I can't keep Gideon out of my mouth. Nicol Bolas wakes up, and Ugin starts explaining things to him. Basically, Ugin explains that he took away Nicol Bolas' name, so nobody can summon Nicol Bolas anymore. He has no name. So he can't even make any contracts or anything like he used to be able to. He is going to hold him there on the plane as much as he can. He lets Nicol Bolas know that the gem of becoming that is in... I wish I had a better picture to show you than just this picture, but basically the gem of becoming is something that Nicol Bolas has had for a long time. As you can see, it was between his horns, and you'll see it in most of the pictures of Nicol Bolas. And we find out that Ugin's essence was actually what made the gem of beginning. And so Ugin has been watching his brother do what he's been doing for a long time. And so as penance, kind of, and as a ultimate way of making sure that now Nicol Bolas is, of course, mortal, and Ugin is not, making sure that his brother is never to perform evil acts again, Ugin basically traps him on the meditation plane, spreads himself out over the plane, and is now his permanent jailer for as long as Nicol Bolas lives. Nobody is allowed to come to that plane, and nobody can. And of course, Nicol Bolas cannot leave the plane because there's no plane spark, or he has no planeswalker spark anymore. And so for now, at least, I hope to God they don't do something stupid here and like release Nicol Bolas and get him resparked again. Anyways, hopefully, for the rest of Nicol Bolas' life, him and Ugin will just be there. And we might not ever see Ugin again, unless they do this big old time jump and Nicol Bolas dies in the meditation plane. But it's kind of this poetic, ending to a long story of brothers. And I mean, from the Elder Dragons War to War of the Spark. Anyways, there are a couple of loose ends I would like to clear up, or at least mention. So the first being Kaya. Kaya actually, she takes an oath to become part of the Gatewatch after the war. She says that she... Let me get to my notes. To atone for her sins as a defector that took Nicol Bolas' side initially before the war, she would join the Gatewatch. And actually, now that Niv Mizzet is the living guild pack, he kind of becomes the king, and then he calls a summit of the guilds, and they basically come up with the idea that if you defected before the war, you're cool, but you have to pay a penance. If you defected either too late into the war or not at all, of course there were a couple that didn't defect at all. Anyways, then you were considered a enemy of the state of Ravnica and were to be hunted down by the people who were to pay penance. So this is of course an older card, but it basically defines what happens next. Kaya becomes the ghost assassin again. Her task is actually to hunt down Liliana, who at the end of the after Nicol Bolas gets desparked, she is given a quick bit of advice from Jace that she might want to run away, and so she's on the run being hunted by Kaya right now. Ral, something a little side note for Ral. First off, he doesn't have to pay penance per se, but he volunteers to pay penance. But he also has a lover that was kind of looked down upon, not because they're gay or anything. It's because Tomek is from the Orzhov Guild and Ral is from the Izzet Guild, and it was kind of looked at as bad to intermingle between guilds like that. But now they're out in the open, and he was really worried about him during the war. Tomek, not Tomek being worried, but Ral was worried about Tomek because he kind of wasn't around for a minute. So anyways, that was all to mention that also Ral decided to volunteer to hunt down Tezzeret. So Ral is actually hunting down Tezzeret right now. Saheeli. So at the end of the war, there's this big planar celebration, and a good bit of the planeswalkers are still around. They're drinking, having a good time, I guess. And it said that Saheeli's there, but it's mentioned that Saheeli's not actually there. It's Lazav in place of Saheeli, or to look like Saheeli. And it's not really said why, but I'm guessing Saheeli disappeared right after the war. It's said that she survived, but for some reason Lazav is dressed as her at the planar celebration. Okay. Anyways, Vraska. So Vraska, let's go with her side story real quick. Vraska, had this love affair basically with Jace on Ixalan. Jace lost his memories, but slowly gained them back, and while that was happening, he was a pirate on Vraska's ship as she searched for the immortal sun under the employ of Nicobolus. Anyways, that's all to say that they fell in love. He changed her to the dark side. The good side is the dark side now, guys. No, he changed her over to the good side, but because she had to go back to Nicobolus, he erased her memory. She gains her memory back unknowingly to him. She gains her memory back from a Golgari telepath. Sorry, trying to read my notes. During war, she had... So at the beginning of the war, she actually planeswalked back to Ixalan because she was worried after betraying Raul, Lavinia, Lazav, and Tetra. It was a Rakdos emissary. They all went to Nicobolus to try to, I guess, undermine him or assassinate him. And at the last minute, Vraska filled out Nicobolus's plans, is what it says on the wiki. And so basically, Tetra dies. They go back to the Rakdos, except for Vraska, because now she's scared that she's going to die next. From Raul and the band, not actually from Nicobolus. But anyways, so they go back to Rakdos. I revive Hetetra as a blood witch. I think it's Hetetra. I really hope I'm saying that name correctly. It's very close if it's not Hetetra. He doesn't have a card. So I couldn't even give you an art, even if there was one. But basically, she revives as a blood witch, fights the blood witch that was totally against joining the war, and wins. So, they convince Rakdos to join the war, and that's why Rakdos, as the guild and as the demon, joined the guild. So, joined the war. So, that's a good bit of side note to keep there. Vraska meets up with Jace, who they kind of pronounce their love to each other. This is the part where he was like, well, I need to bring your memory back to let you remember who you are. And she was like, well, I kind of already did because of the Golgari telepath. And so they profess their love for each other and say that they'll hook up if they survive the war. Well, they do. At the Planar Celebration, she and Jace kiss, and are making merry now. Now, after, of course, because she did defect, or she actually left the Golgari at the beginning of the war. She left the Golgari to go to Ixalan because she was scared. She came back because she was afraid that the Golgari would fall apart without her. And actually, with the help of Raul and Raul, Kaya, Lavinia, and oh god, I think it's Hetera. God, it's anyways. Who attempted to band together and defeat Nicobolus. With the help of Raul and Kaya, they actually convinced all the different sections of Golgari to get formed underneath Vraska and trust her and join the war. Vraska's guild actually hid all of this. It helped evacuate all the civilians with the help of Ajani. And they all evacuated to the tunnels in the Undercity, where it was harder for the Eternals to get to in basically a safe zone. So anyways, they get together, and then of course Vraska being having defected like she did, running away to Ixalan, she is tasked to capture Dovin. So that was her penance, that she has to go capture Dovin now. A maybe blind Dovin, by the way. I still like that Dovin being what I assume is a smart butt. he just gets blinded by something as easy as just a master of disguise. It's hilarious. Lizov is cool. Lizov is cool. And so yeah, she has to go hunt down Dovin. So here's Chandra. Chandra at the end of the war, and going back to Gideon dying, Chandra thought Liliana killed Gideon, and she was about to kill him, or kill her. She was, because they were all up on the top of the citadel, and she was about to kill Liliana, until Jace was like, whoa, hold on a second, she didn't kill him. So basically, Jace explained at Planar Celebration, at the Planar Celebration, she admits that she actually loved Gideon, and the wiki says this so stupidly, but as more than just a brother. So yes, love Gideon. But she also professes her love for Nissa, who also professes her love for Chandra. Weird. I didn't see that coming, to be honest, but now I do. Nissa, Nalara, Chandra, I don't even know Nissa's last name, but anyways, basically, after that, she actually has an after story. So the after story for her is that she goes on this kind of like self-proving mission to her and to her family and to the other Gatewatch, that she can be ready for the next time, which I don't even know why, because if she fell for it like everybody else, Nicobolus is quote-unquote dead right now, which he's not, of course, but they don't know that. So anyways, she goes on this self-pity journey after that. She goes to different planes and helps people who need help. But she starts being very self-destructive and emo, and this is, of course, helped by Tybalt, who is feeding on her agony and is using, as they put it on the wiki, empathetic, let me see what the exact words they used here, empathetic attacks. I have no clue what that means. If that means, like, he talked to her and was like, oh, I feel you, girl, you know, dead Gideons and whatnot. Or if he was actually, like, using some psycho attack as a demon anthologist or a demon magician. Or I really wish I knew more about Tybalt other than that he has demon blood and he used to be a piss poor demonologist. But anyways, so basically, that's what's going on. I should have clicked through this. Yeah, love for Nissa. And then Tybalt. There is one more thing, two more things to mention. There was people sanctioned to bring the ashes, basically burn and bring the ashes of the God Eternals to Hezret, which happened. And it's also thought that, it's mentioned by, I believe, Chandra, that they should bring the body of Gideon to Theros, his home plane, so that he could go and join the afterlife of Theros, which is, Theros is based off of Greek mythology as far as I can understand it, and so there's like an city, I think is what they call it, and underworld. There's an underworld, that's what it's called. And so that he can join the underworld, and potentially he could come back, because Elspeth is in the underworld too, and she might come back. Anyways, not the point. No speculations in this video, but there was a statue erected in Theros for Gideon. And he's getting his own spell book, kind of like Jace got. And there's some cards released. Go check it out. It's pretty cool. All the things about. I wish I knew his actual name right now. It's like Kythos or something like that. But anyways, guys, thank y'all for watching. This is my first lore video, so I appreciate it if y'all stayed this far. It means a lot to me. Please like, share, and subscribe. And this is Sneaky Narcotic, signing off.